topic of the hour tonight. So I've got Candace on the call here as well. I'm Shannon. I'm the operations manager with Best Choice for some of you that are new. We're going over, it's a balanced market right now. So we're kind of wanting to go through some of the solutions that we're seeing right now, things you can talk about, speak to, those types of things as we kind of go through our topic tonight. So Candace, I think we want to talk a little bit about tug of war. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it is definitely, I think across the board, probably every agent that has been on the buying side versus the selling side can attest that there's a bit of a tug of war that we are dealing with, and that speaks to the market. So, what can you expect to say? How do you set the expectation to your clients, your buyers, as well as your sellers? Our ultimate goal is to get to the closing table. Is that always going to happen? Sometimes when you've got that tug of war, we see increased deals falling apart. So we want to go over what can you expect to say right now? What are some things that some of the agents are doing, or how are we putting our heads together to come up with solutions so that we can get to the closing table? Because I think on both sides, that's the end goal as well. So.
Yeah, I think too, there's a lot of clients, if during 2020, 2021, it was easy to sell a house. You just put it on the market and it will sell. And I think now more than ever, being able to combat the whole FISBO concept is actually, it's easier to be a real estate agent now than it was in 2020 when you're talking about your value.
Right.
Because it is a little bit harder to sell a house. We're doing a little bit more to earn our keep. But I think in some respects, rather than just like walking into a listing appointment or a buyer consult and, going with your feeling of, oh, this is going to go, we'll get them under contract within, a week. I think the expectation is we have to look at the marketplace on where you're working a lot closer. There's some that they're not shocked when you say 30 days. They're not shocked when you say 2 months. You got to really dial into what that marketplace is doing. And you'd agree with that too, right, Candace? It's like
Oh, absolutely.
7 days
Yes.
on market, I feel like is gone. I think it's
Mhm.
more common to be seeing 30 days on market at this point.
Well, and I also think too, if you have not maybe worked with a buyer in a few months or have not worked with a seller in a few months, I've had quite a few agents that were talking, and it's kind of like after the fact, like, holy crap, things are going to the left. What to do now? If you have those situations where you haven't had a listing in a while or you haven't worked with a buyer in a while, um, reach out. Let's schedule a strategy session to talk about it so we can help you and set the expectations for your buyers and your sellers on what is happening. Because it's not 2021 anymore. It's
Mhm.
different. And I think it's easy to say right now, it's not really a seller's market. It's not really even a buyer's market. It's that weird middle, and it's inching to a buyer's market, and we don't know what to expect, and we can't speak for what's going to happen next year, but as of right now it's kind of like not either, so it's that middle. And so when you have that tug of war, you feel it big time on both
Yep.
sides.
Yep. I think we were talking about this earlier today about getting creative, preparing yourself sometimes too for the listings that you're taking, for the clients that you're working with. So that way
Mhm.
you can be confident, but also set the right expectations for your mentally yourself as well. It's not necessarily always going to be as cookie cutter as it used to be. We're going to be dealing with some different barriers and benchmarks than we've had in previous years. So one of the ones that has come up quite a bit, especially in areas outside of Northwest MLS territory, is the importance of calling the listing agent before you show the property, before you write an offer on the property. You got to call the agent. Get the story. Why are they purchasing their home? Why did they decide on this property? Why are the sellers deciding to sell? What are they looking for in their offer? Are they offering compensation? And, outside of Northwest MLS, having those conversations is incredibly important, regarding compensation. But sometimes you can eliminate a lot of barriers and a lot of back and forth by just picking up the phone and having a conversation. Don't overthink it. I think there's a lot of new agents that they get so nervous and their heart starts palpitating. But just don't overthink it. Just call them, be kind, and just say, hey, I'm going to be showing this property. What can we expect? What are some things I can pay attention to? As a listing agent, they love when you want to know the all the details, the nitty-gritty details of the listing. They want to tell you the details of the home so that you can convey those to your clients. Rather than just, good luck, I
Right.
want my house to sell. And, the agent is a great method of getting that done. Some of the kind of creative things, Candace, you can kind of pipe into, but we've been seeing this a little bit recently. We're increasing the price to cover closing costs. We used to do this back in 2014, 13. We used to do this all the time. This is now coming up again. We're also having some people do this for agent fees as well. So getting creative when it comes to those types of concessions to make it a win-win for buyer and seller. There's bridge loan products. So people who are nervous about, I don't want to sell my house. I know I need to move, but I need to sell my house in order to buy something. There are products out there, and we used to call them bridge loans. They're called different things now. It depends on the programs, but they're in essence a bridge loan product to kind of bridge the gap between the home I have now and the home I want. So there's options out there. Don't feel like they're restricted and they have to sell first before they buy. They could potentially buy first, and then
Right.
sell. Seller financing might be an option. It's not for everybody. It's not for every property, but it could be an option. For the right property and the right buyer and the right seller, it could be a solution. I think Candace, you had one recently where that was exactly the way to go.
Yep.
There's some people that don't want to put it on the market, but they have someone that they want to sell to, and that seems like that might be a good fit.
Right.
Um,
I'm
so
working on one right now too with a listing that I have. It's a piece of land and it's kind of been setting, but if they can take a portion now and the rest later, I mean, I'd rather explain that as an option to my seller, tell her
mhm,
the ins and outs of it, and let her decide. And so if she's in between deciding, we might be going off the market finally after a year.
yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, get
Yeah.
creative.
Very creative. Yeah. And I think too, with marketing too, this is one of the things that, when you're budgeting how much you're spending on listing, marketing is the one thing that is probably the biggest, bunch of amount that you're spending on listing is on your marketing efforts. And some of the stuff you could do is if you've already prepared to have a credit to a buyer, from the seller, what's the harm in marketing that before you do the price reduction? Let's get the word out about the credit. And then mentally, the seller is already prepared for that credit. So it's actually a little bit easier sometimes to get a price reduction later. So that's something that I've seen some really top agents use is, let's offer a $10,000 credit. Okay, the credit didn't bite anybody. Well, now instead of doing a credit, we'll just lower the price at that point in time too. So it's another solution. And then lots of creativity. I've seen some people do all sorts of stuff online, offline, print, mail, social media, all the things. Let's get creative. I had someone they had like a Nerf gun war in one of their houses. I saw that was really funny. That one, and they were going
Nerf
through
gun
their open
war.
house. Yeah, I mean, have fun with it in some respects. Get the word about their listings. People want things that are memorable.
Yeah, and
Um,
don't forget about your lender partners too. Sean, I know, has put together some nice side by sides that you can provide and share with your seller, share with your buyers so that they understand the differences between, say, maybe doing the price reduction or the credit. I just recently had somebody, they're like, well, we want to put an offer on this house, but we don't, they just don't want to pay full price for it. I don't know where that came from, but just all of a sudden didn't want to pay full price for a house. Okay, so we want to pay less. Why? Help me understand why. And then do you want to do a reduction in the price point or ask for closing costs? And most often you'll find, working with the lender if they're financing that closing cost credit is much more valuable than just the price reduction in most scenarios, financing. So use your lender partner, reach out to Sean. He will put some scenarios together for you so that you can provide that to your seller or buyers.
Yeah, and those are very helpful on any sort of property that you know is like a first-time home buyer house or a condo or something like that. I mean, what's the harm in having that like rent versus own, analysis on the back of your flyer? Like, there's no reason why you can't. And I know that the lenders are always happy to do things like that. So that way you can at least have that comparison, that talking point of this is why you should buy now, rather than paying rent for the next 5 years. This is why that might be a good solution for you. Um, Candace, I think you wanted to talk about closing dates. What can we kind of be aware of in our balanced market right now when it comes to closing dates and things of that nature?
Well, all of these things are things to consider. The rent back. We've got a lot of sellers that maybe they've got other plans and they need the time to do that. So, offering a rent back. Obviously, you want to be very careful with the rent back time frame, and make sure that our sellers and buyers both understand, the repercussions of that. But rent backs may be an option on closing dates. Maybe like, for example, today I spoke with somebody who the seller needs through the end of January. And so they were looking at asking them to do an extended closing. Well, maybe not an extended closing. Maybe they can close the end of December and do a rent back and kind of work that in with, the closing cost credit that was asked for. They were asking for some money in closing costs, kind of make it make sense, spell it out, take the time to kind of go over all of those options with your sellers and buyers,
Yeah,
as opposed to
it's like a
the
roadmap.
whole like, no. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you have to go through the roadmap with the sellers sometimes too, where you say, okay, we're going to be on the market for X amount of days until, we need to kind of evaluate the listing. This is how many days that roughly might be. Once we have a buyer, then this is how long that takes. You have to really spell it down for them. There's a lot of sellers, on average, most people they either live in their home for a very long time, but they're moving every 5 years. They're not in real estate like we are. And so they don't know what those timeframes are. And every state is going to be a little bit different. So explain it. You can't explain it enough, I think, in some respects. They want to kind of have things broken down in that way.
Absolutely. And this is also a market where home sale contingencies, they're on the rise. We're seeing them. I've told quite a few people, if you need to sell your home contingent, now may be the time. I can't speak for the spring market when things start picking up, but I can definitely say now is a great time if you need to sell your home to purchase another one. This is a great time to be doing that as opposed to later on when the competition gets a little fierce and you have a seller who doesn't want a home sale contingency because that time frame that it has to take to sell the home.
Yeah. It pauses the counter. I mean, this is another kind of strategy why we see a little bit more usually in November and December is it pauses the counter. The seller can take it off the market, to a buyer that's going to try and sell their home too. They would have already taken it off the market, canceled it, whatever. But it pauses that counter online so that way they can try, let's try and sell this to this buyer. And if it doesn't sell, then okay, no worries. We just go back on the
Yep,
market in January.
yep, exactly. There you go.
I know.
Yes.
Most buyers are going to be a 30-day or less close. There's been a couple sellers recently that are saying, "Oh, I don't want to sell until this specific date," or "I have my mortgage I'm paying on the next one." Buyers don't, I mean, frankly, buyers don't really care. They,
There you
they
go.
want to buy their house. They want to move in as quickly as possible for the most part. So I think having conversations around the closing date is going to be important. Try and close on Wednesdays or earlier in the week if you can rather than a Friday or end of the month or end of the year. The day that you close can be a big deal at the very last minute. We have on here PITI. Just a quick kind of like shout out, I suppose, about rent backs. When you're using those with your buyers and sellers, be very careful about doing the amounts for a rent back. You might want to consider figuring out what the seller's PITI is in order for them to hold back the property or for the, the buyer to occupy, things like that. That would be principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Basically the per diem per day amount for that property to be in the buyer's or seller's possession. So that way that it's not necessarily a free rent back. There's going to be a cost for it if they stay later than a certain date or things like that. So if you have questions about structuring that rent back, call our office. We can help you with that, but just be very careful. Try not to do $0 rent backs for the end of time. Be very careful about that. Inspections. So we're seeing a lot more inspections now than we have in years past. Right now, especially, it's all about, and we're in a negotiation phase, I think, right now. We're always trying to keep the deals together. We're trying to keep buyer and seller focused on the goal, which is the goal is homeownership for a buyer. For seller, it's getting into their next place, right? So the best advice you can give your buyer is don't go crazy. Don't ask for, the entire moon. I had an inspection that was sent over and it was like it was a honeydew list, laundry list. And I was like, there is no way this seller is going to go for this. So don't go crazy. But if you do have certain requests that are in there, make sure you can kind of back it up rather than just throwing a dollar amount out there. Like, oh, my buyer thinks it's going to take, I don't know, crystal ball, probably $20,000 to do this repair. It maybe not. The seller is being very careful about, their concessions, that they're being very mindful about the concessions they're giving. So on the screen, I have a sample that I saw recently, a very cool strategy I saw from an agent, or I was representing the seller, they were representing the buyer, but I liked the approach where it made it very easy for me to negotiate with my seller on what they wanted to do. So they said, please see attached form 35Rs. They actually sent me two 35Rs. And it says, I will call you in a moment to explain a bit more. Please confirm receipt. Let me know if you have any questions. They sent me two 35Rs and I kind of snipped version 1 and version 2 so you guys could see them side by side. But in essence, they gave my seller two paths. So it made it very easy for my seller to say, okay, we can go one of two different ways. And when I read through the options, I'll read them so you guys can see. The first option was have the furnace serviced and do a credit of $12,060 towards buyer's closing costs. Option B would be to have the furnace serviced and a little bit of honeydew, replace the hinges in the garage, make sure the broken window is fixed, make sure the garage opens all the way, fix the center in the garage, make sure that the electrical panels, ungauged wire is fixed, things like that. So a little bit of repairs. They gave the seller options. And, this is one thing where I went to my seller and said, okay, we have two paths here. You have options. What do you want to do? And we could have gone back and forth. If I had gotten the second option, we could have gone back and forth. She would have been like, no, this is all functioning. I don't want to be expected to do this. This is fine. Can I just do a video? Can I have my handyman do it? We could have gone back and forth on a 35R. This buyer's agent did a good job. She knew the circumstances and sent this over, and we're signed, sealed, delivered on option A at this point. So made it very easy to rationalize the credit when you see things broken down in that way. So if you've got a buyer that is wanting some things done, she could have gone with option B. She was actually close to it, but when you get down to the root of the issue, she had two very good options to go with, and she went with the one that she felt most comfortable with, and the buyer was okay with either option. So be creative, but also be realistic, I think, with a buyer. Don't just throw numbers out there right now. Sellers are being very mindful of the credit amounts and the repairs that are being asked for. You want to be very realistic. What's going to make most sense? What are things that are health and safety concerns? What are things that any other buyer is going to be coming across right now? So that way we can kind of keep the deal together in that respect without really getting into like really nitty gritty things that are kind of dumb in some respects. Caulk around windows may not make or break the deal, but maybe a roof might be something to keep in mind, right?
Right.
Yeah. So one of the
I
other
like that.
yeah,
I
this
really,
is
really
another
like that.
one. This one's fresh off over the weekend too. We all get these, I think, at this point. If you've listed a home in the last year, I think all of us have gotten one of these. There's a lot of agents that are representing clients that are just throwing deals out there and seeing what sticks. So this is a lowball email I got for a listing. It says, "Hi Shannon, my client's very interested in your listing. See attached for the offer. Here it is." Basically, as you can see, they're more than qualified to purchase the home. They'll be doing hard money. So appraisal is not an issue, just fast and easy. It's like a 2-week close. So one of the top questions we get on the low balls from new agents especially is, are we required to present these? Candace, are we required to present offers like this?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And we're required to present all offers to our sellers. So, for a listing that if this is a low ball, right? So, are you required to present it? Yes, I have to take this email and now go to my seller and say, I know this isn't the offer you were expecting. This might be a couple $100,000 less than what you were expecting, but I'm required by law to provide all offers to you. How do you want to respond? So, how you reply, one of the best tips I can give you when it comes to replying to a lowball offer, I have it here on the screen. Just send something like this, and it just says, "Received. Can you please provide an explanation as to why your clients are offering 34% less than list price?" Obviously do the math on what percentage it is less than list price, but you've got a seller, and most of the sellers that are out there listing their homes right now, they are not desperate. They're not needing to sell their house tomorrow. They're willing to put in the time usually to list the home and see it to its expiration. They want an explanation. If you're offering less than more than 5 to 10% off the list price, that seller's going to want a reason. Why? Is it because they found this, or was it because they want to do this with the property? Is it because they feel, because of XYZ, or there could be any number of reasons, but having that explanation, you can very clearly tell this buyer's agent did not call ahead, didn't give me any indication of what the client's wanting to do with the property other than just the number on the board here. So having kind of some meat around the bones is helpful when I'm going to that seller so that I can help this buyer's agent. If I don't have much
Right.
to go off of, I can't do a very good job of presenting this offer and getting them a potential counter offer. Um, One of the things that, as a buyer's agent, what's worth your time to even write? I think most listings right now, if you're more than 10%, you better call that agent ahead of time and see if it's even worthwhile. In many cases, you're just not going to even get a response from the seller. They're just going to
Yeah.
reject it. If you're within that 5 to 10% of list price, you're looking at a potential counteroffer. And that's kind of usually where you can actually get some fun negotiation and buyer can get a good deal. But any more than that, and the seller is just, they're not going to be pleased and they will probably just reject you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you?
It makes for a difficult situation
Yeah, I
after the
know.
fact. It's
So
like, yeah,
give it a
got
try.
this, yeah, got this offer, don't know anything about the buyer, except for it's a hard money, nothing. Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes for a very challenging conversation with your seller.
Yeah, for sure. And cash doesn't always win. The sellers are willing to wait it out, but get some more information from that lowball would be the best tip I can get. Um, Candace sent me a copy of hers, which is funny because I have one that's very similar. But for sellers right now, because homes are taking longer than a week to sell, they are expecting some sort of update from you. Now, what that looks like might be a little bit different. Candace's looked similar, I'd say, to mine, but not exactly. Obviously, we're going to tweak it to the client to best suit them. But having some sort of at least template to work from, if you wanted to screenshot this, you can. But this is a sample of what I send to my clients. And Candace, I think yours looks very similar to this too, even similar
Mm-hmm. Yep.
attachments. But having something that you can send to your sellers on a weekly basis is going to help you. And even if you have nothing notable to share,
Nothing. Yeah.
yeah, no news is still news. So, this particular listing, I had feedback. We had a very busy, lots of activity on this particular house after 6 days on market, but no offers. So rather than just like curling under a rock and being like, oh, I'm a terrible agent, I want to at least share what I've done to prep that seller for the next couple weeks. So I think on here we've got notable stats, how many days on market, how many showings we've had, how many open houses we've done, how many groups came through for the open houses, how many reverse prospecting hits we've gotten, what has the feedback been? What does the listing look like right now? What does our competition look like right now? So someone who's looking at your home, Mr. Seller, what other homes are they looking like? So we can compare, contrast. What is the average days on market? Are we in line? So giving them some statistics around it might be helpful too. I'd say this is probably above and beyond what most agents would do, but if you take just a nugget of this and make it your own, this is what sellers are needing. They need some sort of update from you. They are craving an update from you. And what kind of results do you get from yours, Candace? I mean, it's usually good, the feedback on these.
Yeah. I mean, the it's a mixed bag because it depends on the client. Some clients, kind of they don't care. Others enjoy it and, look forward to getting it. So I just know for me, for sure, it's like making sure that it's on the same day. In some cases though, too, this is something that needs to go out every week? You want to determine, is it bi-weekly? So I've been lately sending it bi-weekly since days on market is up a little bit more as opposed to every single week. But the communication, it does not hurt, whether it's a client that, likes that detailed information. I would say your detailed people, they really love this and enjoy it. Others, I mean, the feedback I've gotten has never been bad. How about that?
Yeah.
It's never been bad.
Well, and this might work for the analytics. I mean, even if you don't email them, I mean, if you call them with this feedback, they will, sellers will appreciate, they want to hear from you, either an email, on phone, but having some of this information, it'll put more trust and faith in you, especially when you go back to them and ask them for some help on some of the different things that you might need to do to get the listing
Exactly.
sold. So they need to, we need more faith in you as your agent.
And And even if you're just sending like a showing time report, that is that's helpful. It's like it shows how many people have toured the house, kind of if it's up, it's down from last week. So even that is a great report to send. Send something.
Yeah. This is a interesting little thing. So for those of you who have listings that are on the call tonight, this is probably one that this is like my mental checklist. So Candace, Rochelle, me, Virginia, whenever we have a listing that we're like, okay, what have we done on the listing? What do we need to consider? How does it rank compared to the competition? Is it still in the market? Why is it still in the market? This is kind of some of the things that we can control as an agent, or at least have some influence over. So, when I have a listing that's on the market, let's evaluate the marketing. Is there sufficient signage? Can buyers find the house? There's some houses that are tucked in the woods. Do we have some directionals to direct them into the house? Do we have a for sale sign out in the road? Making sure that you have one. Has it fallen down? We had a windstorm recently. Has it fallen down? Might want to drive down and check on your listing. The photos and the marketing remarks. Are we have marketing remarks that are attracting the right type of buyer? Are the photos arranged in a way that buyers want to see them? Can we change them up? When you change up the photos, we have a listing that's on the market for a month and the photo order has not changed. When a buyer is looking at new listings or listings in an area and they keep seeing the same photo, they're like, well, I've already seen that one. If you change up the order of your photos, sometimes that might generate a little bit of extra activity. Video tours on YouTube. YouTube has a huge untapped market potential right now. So if you're not putting your video tours on YouTube, you should be. Social media, using reels, more than posts, more than pictures, using video and reels specifically on social media is something that you should be leveraging and doing. Printing mailouts, they work. It's funny. They actually do work right now, doing some sort of print mail out, postcards. This is how I did it. You know, I think Candace, you had some that it's like market report. I can't remember. I've seen a couple things recently, but they work. I have a buyer, I have a seller, you know, things like
Yeah.
that. Get those out. I've seen some agents do like a blast to their CRM when they take a listing. They basically have created like a VIP list within their own database of when things are hitting the market. Hey, this is the deal
Yeah.
of the week. You might want to take a look at this one. Do you have any buyers that this might work for? Agent e-flyer, you know, sending it out to your database of agents, contractors, vendors. You know, that might be another way to kind of get the word out about your listing. Open houses. Are we doing them? Are we not doing them? Can we do a neighborhood, you know, broker tour, thing like that? Any sort of like way to have that house open. Are the supplements on the listing? Do we have disclosures on there? Is the title report on there? This is like one of my pet peeves on listings, is not having the title report on there. You know, having the title work done ahead of time is really helpful so that the buyer has something to review when they're putting together their offer for you. Is the resale certificate ordered? Has the septic already been pumped? These are questions that buyers have. So if we can eliminate some of those questions, then they're more likely to pull the trigger potentially, right? They have all their information in front of them. Floor plans are on the rise right now. I have a tip trick, I suppose, here on the next slide I can show you on that. And same thing with staging, virtual staging. Look at your competition is what I can tell you when it comes to staging. If homes that are in your little area around where your listing is are doing staging, you may want to have that conversation with your seller around staging. And same goes for pre-inspections. Seller procured pre-inspections or allowing pre-inspections on a home. One of the other things that kind of comes up is deferred maintenance. There's a lot of deferred maintenance going on right now. I think, Candace, you can echo this, is right. There's a lot
Yeah.
of deferred maintenance. I've had more roof negotiations, a lot of mold negotiations, a lot of electrical, you name it. We've been dealing with it recently. So let's get ahead of it. You know, if you come across an older home and you see that the electrical panel is a recalled panel, let's get ahead of it. You know, it's going to come up on inspection and appraisal. You know, let's see if we can get ahead of some of those deferred maintenance items. And barriers to show. If you've got a listing that you've got a tenant, for instance, you know, making sure that you have the times blocked aside, your showing time settings are set up. You have serious buyers. You know, I've got some of the upper higher end homes and some of the undisclosed listings that are out there. They're requiring a pre-approval sent to them ahead of time to make sure that they're serious buyers instead of looky-loos. This could be good or bad for your listing, depends on it depends on the type of market you're in. But having barriers to show, if you're making it difficult to get in, it can also tighten your buyer pool there because they can't get in and see it. They want to see what they're
Right.
buying. And then the last piece is certainly price. And it's not just the purchase price. People always think it's just the price of the home. It's more than that now. We're talking about agent compensation. We're talking about closing costs. We're talking about flooring allowances, septic pumping. Recently, I've seen some people negotiate on that as well. It's more than just the sticker price, I think, at this point. So these things that are on here are things that we can control or have influence on as a real estate agent. And it's all about how we posture it. But going through this mental checklist is sometimes helpful if you've got a home that's sitting and you're like, what can I do? What can I do to get this thing sold? What are things I can
Right.
do to at least prove to my seller that I'm doing what I promised them that I was going to do? That they're putting trust and faith in me as their agent. And these are things that I can think about and control. Is there anything you would add to this list, Candace, that I missed?
No, I mean that's all the things, all of
Yeah.
them. Marketing, signage, supplements, having them all available, adding floor plans, making sure the house looks good, staging or virtual staging, the pre-inspection. I love having that. Does not mean that your buyers have to bypass it, but pre-inspection, it brings forth a bit of transparency for the listing, for the buyer. Um, yeah, deferred maintenance and cleaning, some of those things. And two, I mean, not it happens. It happens to all of us. We have these situations where there's the barriers to show the house and deferred maintenance that needs to be done and all of those things. So I think sometimes too, it's hard to realize that sometimes, right, when you're in the whole process of getting things ready to go. So take a look at that checklist, you know, the listing checklist when you're listing the home, and you know, go through all of those things, every single one of these with your seller, and see. Sometimes the deferred maintenance and cleaning, um that is, I had a conversation with somebody. It was, they were kind of fearful to tell their client, you know, that the house doesn't smell so great. It's like, so how can I put this in other words, right? How can I communicate to my client, you know, the fact that you are living on the couch in the middle of the day is really a challenge, and when it's time to show the house. And so, you know, do we really want to sell the house? But you guys, I'm going to tell you one little secret that I would add here in all of this. Chat GPT. Use Chat GPT to help you even with communicating to some of your clients. Like, I've gone in and said, hey, Chat GPT, all of a sudden my sellers don't want to show the house. How can I explain to them how this is challenging our listing, right? Without, you know, hurting their feelings, or, you know, the deferred maintenance and cleaning, you know. I know you love your dog, but your dog's paws are stinking, stinking up the rug, you know, those kind of things. So think about that. Reach out if you guys ever need any help. You know, wording things, using some of these options as well with your clients.
Yeah, these are so I've got two companies, I suppose. If you're like questioning, you've got listings and you're like, what do I use for virtual staging? What do we use for the, different companies? Let us give us a shot, I suppose. Or put it in the closed group on Facebook and see what people are using when it comes to vendors and things like that. But if you're looking for a quick suggestion when it comes to virtual staging, boxbrownie.com is an option for you that you can do on your own. You don't need to have a photographer. You don't have to have a specific person to do it. You can do this yourself. It's boxbrownie.com. You can kind of see a sample here of what they're able to do. It's gotten pretty good. Virtual staging 10 years ago, I'd say you could tell for the most part, but it's gotten pretty good to the point where I'm like, I think, it actually does kind of cause you to question. It's gotten really good. So if you tried it 10 years ago and you haven't given it a shot recently, it might be worthwhile. There are some homes that it's just easier to virtually stage than it is to do the full stage. Condos can be tricky because you're dealing with elevators and things like that too sometimes in the downtown areas. And it just might be better to do a virtual stage, or maybe the sellers are living in the home, you know?
Right.
So think of it as a solution to potential barriers or, problems that the sellers have in their mind of, I want my house to look a certain way or to be, presented in a certain way to the public, but I don't want a stager to be in the home. Well, this is a solution that you could offer to them. I'd say it's fairly inexpensive when you look at the cost compared to actual stage. I know you pay per image in essence, but staging can be, I think it's anywhere between $1 to $3 per square foot, I think now when it comes to actual full stage. So when you're looking at cost comparison, that's kind of what you can expect. For floor plans, so this is one of the things that's popped up recently. We've talked about this in previous calls, but if you have not used Cubicasa, I would urge all of you to try this out this week. Try it on your own house. It doesn't matter that you live there. It doesn't matter. This is a tool that you can leverage for free to get a 2D floor plan of a listing. This is a big deal when it comes to home buyers right now. There's all these polls that they've done with the National Association of Realtors, and before they did the settlement and things like that, saying what's most important to home buyers. And floor plans are a big deal. People want to know, where the bathrooms are in relation to the bedrooms, and where are the stairs, and are there two sets of stairs? I don't understand where the kitchen is, things like that. So it's gotten very important to them, more so than videography and things like that. So this is a very easy way for you to do it yourself. You literally take your phone, download the app today. You go around, you do like a little video tour around the house. It's very simple. And within 24 hours, and it seems so stupid for me to say it. It's like too good to be true almost, but you'll get the 2D floor plan in your inbox the next day. They say within 24 hours, it's often much faster, and it's pretty dang accurate. So I think it's probably, like probably 95% of the time, it's going to be 100% accurate. So leverage the tool, put it on as a listing, put it on as the second photo. I mean, they want to see the floor plan, put it where they're going to see it. And if your photographer's not doing this, this might be something you can do on your own, or you can have them do when they're at the house, or when you're meeting the appraiser, or whatever it is that you're doing. But you should be using some sort of floor plan in your marketing materials. I think that's everything we wanted to talk to tonight. Is there anything I missed, Candace, that we missed?
No, that
No,
was good.
we are here
Yeah.
to help. We sure are. So, we want to see the listings turn. I know it's been busy. I had clients of mine that's like, they're talking over Thanksgiving, and oh yeah, well, I need a resource for a lender, or I need a vendor for this. I need a decking specialist. I had several questions like that over the weekend. So be that resource for people. If you need some help on, what can I say? What can I do? Don't feel bad. Call us. We can help you. We can talk through the different situations with you. Candace, I know, always takes on those calls for, let's talk your business strategy, things like that too. We want to help you see success next year, especially. It's going to be big next year. We're going to see a lot of business come through, a lot of listings, a lot of sales at Best Choice next year. So thanks so much for
Exciting.
joining, you guys. Nice to see many of your faces. We've got good trainings coming up this next week. Tune in this next Monday. If not, we'll see you guys then. Thanks, you guys.
Have a good one, everybody.